Hello everyone. Let's talk about how we can use the Outpost system in Starfield to equip ourselves with all the ammo, medical supplies, credits, perk points, and other essentials that we need to comfortably play through the game. You won't need to have any perk investments for this guide to work, and you can do it straight after you finish the prologue. Also, when you're doing that, don't worry about looting every little thing. Just open the locked side areas, crack all the saves and so on, loot the big container at the end, and make sure you kill and loot all the pirates there for their stuff. And when you get to New Atlantis, head over to the commercial district first to unlock it for fast travel, before going to the mast to hand in your quest. Finally, you don't have to go around the lodge if you don't want to. Straight after you hand it in, you can go to Sarah and start your free roam. When you're done, fast travel over to the commercial district and head over here to UC Distribution. We're going to start buying all the resources we need to craft our outpost. Head on over to this lady, sell everything you've looted from the prologue. Remember, you can also sell your ammunition if you need extra money, but you shouldn't need to. And then head over to the resource section here. You want to buy all of these materials that you can find. Don't worry about buying in exact quantities, you have more than enough money. And when you're done, fast travel back to Jameson, dump everything that you've bought into your ship, then run on over here to Jameson Mercantile and repeat the same process. When we're done, we're going to want to find a planet with both iron and aluminium to build our outpost. I'd recommend a third-party website here called Hardcore Gamer. Head on over to the database here at the top, then go to Starfield, then Resources. And when you scroll down, you can find aluminium and click through. On this page, you'll find every planet with aluminium on it, and when you search for FE for iron, you'll find planets with both aluminium and iron. Here's Androphon, that's quite popular. Here's Tau Ceti, but that's quite far. But the planet I'd recommend to you here is Bessel 3b. It has a big advantage, which we'll show you in just a little bit. Click through, find where it is in the system, and let's travel over. If, like me, you do get attacked when you arrive or travel to anywhere else, remember you can grav jump away and then grav jump back to reset things. Now, iron's found here in the reddish color within the mountains biome, and aluminium is found in the greenish color here in the rocky desert biome. We're going to want to find a border that's clearly visible when we're on the ground between the two biomes. The best way to find this, that I found mainly from watching other people's guides, is to left-click to place a marker to land and left-click again to remove it. Each time you repeat this, move your mouse over a pixel or two from one biome towards the other until just moving your mouse a tiny little bit changes the biome you're in, and then click land. And if you're unlucky like me, you'll find just the one biome. Mountains has this deep, rich red color, which we can't see anywhere around us here, which means we've only found the one biome in the landing site. It's all randomly generated, so just find somewhere else and land again. And here you can see that I found the border between the two biomes just on my second landing, and we're going to press F to take out our scanner and R to start projecting an outpost to see what resources we can find within the build radius of the outpost. We want to find a place along the border between the two biomes that has both iron and aluminium within the build radius. We also want to have enough room on those ore patches to be able to place 5 extractors. I'll explain more on that in a bit. Now, with your outpost down, you should be straight into build mode, but if you're not, press F and R again to enter it, and then hit V to enter flycam mode. And as we can see, we only have a tiny little sliver of aluminium in it, and the iron for us is right at the other end of the circle, so this isn't a great spot. If you find yourself in a similar situation, just hold R, pick up your outpost and move it somewhere else. You don't lose anything by moving it. Here is a much better spot. When you're placing an extractor, you'll see that there is a yellow circle around the unit. As soon as you place one, you can't place another extractor that has its yellow circle crossing into the middle of another extractor. And with that in mind, you can spam quite a few extractors into a small area. But we'll start by just placing one aluminium and one iron extractor with enough solar panels to get them both going. Next, we're going to place down an industrial workbench and somewhere to sleep for an hour. And when we sleep, we'll find the main advantage of this planet. 1 hour sleeping here gives us 57 hours and 47 minutes of universal time passed in the game. Extractors work on universal time and vendors reset every 48 hours of universal time. So 1 hour napping here fills our extractors and resets every vendor in the game. Then we're going to place 4 more aluminium and iron extractors for a total of 5 for each resource, and enough solar powers to get them all going. When we've done that, we're going to sleep for another hour to fill all of those extractors. Then we're going to head on over to the crafting bench and make a few hundred adaptive frames. With those, we're going to start to build storage structures for each of our extractors. The reason we're not going to build one giant storage unit for each resource is Bethesda. The game starts to bug whenever you have more than about 60 containers linked together. But we're going to play around that by building a stack of about 20 to 25-ish containers, one for each of our extractors. While you're in build mode, press tab to cycle between build and adjust mode. And when you're in adjust mode, you can just right-click on one container and then right-click on another to link the two. And we're going to daisy chain the containers together into one giant stack. And then connect the output box from one of the extractors into the input box of your new stack. Then we're going to repeat this process 9 times so that we have a storage stack of about 20 containers for each of our extractors. And then sleep. I had to sleep for about 12 hours in total here to fill everything up. And then do a visual inspection to make sure all of the containers are filling up, which means your daisy chaining worked just fine. Next, we're going to put down a landing pad. If your ship is below, I think, 80 meters, you can get away with a small one, but I'm going to future-proof this base by putting a bigger one down. And then this is an optional thing to do, but you can put down a transfer container and then link all of the last boxes in the daisy chains of your storage stacks to the transfer container. This will allow you to just walk up and by spamming E, albeit unevenly, you can start to pick up all of the resources you want, which will become useful later in your gameplay when you're trying to build other outposts and you need iron, aluminium, and adaptive frames to do so. And when you're done, dump everything heavy out of your inventory so that you can fast travel and then go to anywhere at all at random on this planet. When you land, you're going to press F to bring up your scanner and hit E on each of these Stonehenge looking symbols here. And what you want them to turn into, we'll see it here in just a second, is these symbols. These mean civilian structures. Now, the way I've edited the video, it looks like this was my first landing, but this was actually my 3rd landing. And fair warning, this process can take a while. Civilian outposts come in all shapes and sizes, and we specifically want one with a bar and a trader behind that bar. The first building I found here was just a whole bunch of people living in a house. And these two look like they're having some kind of private moment, so let's just leave them to it and get going. On one of my other playthroughs, I found a strange shop whose inventory wouldn't reset every 48 hours, and you can find all sorts of different civilian structures. In this attempt, I landed 23 times, and on the 4th civilian structure that I found, finally, there was a bar with a trader behind it. Now, when you find it, head back out, go far enough away to be able to place another outpost, knock one down to lock in this location so that we can come here whenever we want in this playthrough, name it whatever you like, and then fast travel over to your iron and aluminium place. If you like, pick up whatever you dropped earlier, and then deal with another Bethesda bug that stops you using your items sometimes unless you save and reload your outpost, and then we're going to start spam crafting adaptive frames. To do this, we want to be able to craft between 95 to 99 of them just by pressing E, left click, and E again. To do this, we have to position our mouse over a place where left clicking can move the slider up, and when we press E to craft and hit E again, our mouse is hovering over adaptive frames so that it will start the crafting process again. Then just spam E, left click E, Sorry Xbox users, this will probably take you a lot longer, but if you are on PC, I would strongly recommend making yourself a macro to save your fingers and also your eyes from all of the flashing lights. Start spamming E left click E until you run out of resources, sleep, and then repeat until you reach about level 50. Took me about 100,000 adaptive frames. Thankfully though, we don't live in a world of Newtonian physics, we live in a world of Bethesdian physics here. And thanks to the efforts of Todd Howard, the weight of 100,000 adaptive frames won't snap us like a twig. All it'll do is take our health down to 5%. Also, when we get to the cockpit of our ship, the universe forgets the weight we're carrying, and we can fast travel anywhere we want. We apologize, Sir Isaac Newton. Anyway, let's go back to our cell post. Sit on a stool from which we can reach the trader. Do bear in mind though, she will move around, but we'll come back to that in a second, and then open the trader's inventory. Now this inventory is amazing. Every time you refresh it, it has a new set of ammo, armor, weapons, jetpacks, helmets, all sorts of things. You can buy most of the ammunition you would want for your whole playthrough here. For instance, I want to buy heavy fuses for my laser rifles. And also, the more money you spend here, the fewer times you'll have to refresh the vendor to be able to sell all of your adaptive frames. You can also stock up on medical supplies, ship repair supplies, a lot of the consumables that you would want to buy. The one note of caution I will give you is if you want to spam trauma packs, bear in mind they do have a weight. If you carry enough of them, the weight becomes significant. And on the other hand, again thanks to Bethesdian physics, med packs have zero mass and you can carry as many of them as you would like. So I'd suggest spamming those. Then sell your adaptive frames as much as you can, head out of the trader's inventory and you're already sat down. So just tap B and wait for 1 hour, which on Bessel 3B exceeds the 48 hours of universal time needed to refresh the vendor, and then you can talk to her again. Sometimes she moves clear to the other side of the bar, and sometimes she doesn't move, and you can speak to her again straight away. Now there is an exploit to be able to wait while moving around and standing, but we're not about exploits here. These are all intended game mechanics. Also bear in mind that you can buy most of the resources that you want to be able to craft mods and the other things that you need. And I am also working on another guide where we can make a pharmaceutical empire that spams products that's light enough to carry, so that we can go on a grand tour of the settled system selling our pharmaceutical goods. And for that I'm buying a whole bunch of resources, but don't worry, I'll cover that in another guide. But if you do want resources, they're available here as well. Another quick tip to do with Bethesdian physics is whenever you aim down gun sights, the laws of physics disappear. I'm carrying way more than my carry capacity in crafting resources, but as you can see, whenever I was aiming down sights, my oxygen was regenerating, not depleting. And also one final tip, if you can't find this trader behind the bar on Bessel 3B or you just don't want to, I would recommend going to Neon City on the Volley system in order to sell. There's a whole bunch of vendors, and again, all you have to do is wait 48 hours of universal time to refresh the vendors. This has been my first piece of Starfield content. If you have any questions or tips of your own to share, please put them in the comments below and I'll pin the good ones. Thank you for watching. I appreciate that you stayed to the end. Until next time, that's all from me for now. Goodbye.